Yep, it's a pretty horrible thing. You know, somebody kill your whole family. You know, your mother, your wife, your three sons.
Under our definition in Montgomery County, a cold case is any case that leaves our homicide unit, and either the investigator, the primary investigator, has left the unit, or the case is 3 or more years old and still unsolved. It's not technically a cold case because it's closed. There's a warrant on file for Brad Bishop. It's cold in the sense that he's never been caught.
Detective Brian Stafford. I'm with the Montgomery County Police Department with our Missing Persons and Cold Case Squad, and I'm assigned to the Bradford Bishop murders case. The bodies were discovered in the afternoon of March 2nd in North Carolina. The family was known to be alive. He was last seen on the evening of March 1st. So that's the time when the murders occurred. All of the family members were murdered inside the house, we believe, and then were transported, we believe, in the family's station wagon to North Carolina, area outside of Columbia, North Carolina. If you've ever been to the Outer Banks, you drove right through Columbia to get there. They were buried in a shallow grave. The area was set on fire. Some of the bodies were partially burned. Bradford Bishop was seen later that day in Jacksonville, North Carolina. He was actually at a sporting goods store purchasing a pair of tennis shoes. And after that, we lose track of him. Nobody ever saw him again. But the vehicle that he was driving, the station wagon, was recovered actually in Tennessee in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And the vehicle was recovered, I'm trying to remember the exact date now, I think it was about on the 18th. But the witnesses at the time said they thought the vehicle had been there since maybe the 2nd or the 3rd of March. And that's the last trace we have of Bradford Bishop. He purchased a gas can that, we don't know if it's the same one because they're not serialized, but he purchased a gas can like this. He purchased a small sledgehammer and purchased some gasoline. So we think this is the gas can that he purchased. It was found on scene where the bodies were buried and where the fire was started. So that's the gas can. And they lifted a print off of this, and that print, at the time, they identified that print as being Brad Bishop's. So this is the pitchfork that was found on the scene, and yeah, it's the shovel that has the sticker. So again, you can see this is kind of charred a little bit, and that's from the fire that he lit down there. The dog lived. We know the dog was running around.
So what happened to the dog?
No idea. We think the last time, the dog may have been seen at Great Smoky Mountains National Park, where the car was abandoned.
He may have taken
he took the dog with him because there were bloody dog footprints in the car. People who saw him at the State Department that day, the day that he was last there, the day he murdered his family, nobody remarks that there was anything strange about him. The last guy who saw him said he left. He complained that he was getting the flu, which is why nobody at the State Department missed him. He didn't come to work the next day, right? This is a Monday, so he doesn't come to work the next day. Nobody thinks anything about it because last time they talked to him, he said, "I think I'm getting the flu." So they thought he was homesick. Nobody, for whatever reason, nobody missed the kids at school, nobody reported them. It wasn't until a week later, it was on the 8th, that a neighbor called in and said, "Hey, the mail's kind of piling up. Nobody's picked up the newspapers. You might want to send somebody out here." So the police went out, knocked on the door. Nobody answered. They made entry into the house to check on the family and found a crime scene. The closest I thought we were was a sheriff's department down in Georgia called in and said, "Hey, you might want to look at this guy." And it was in 1981, I think. They had a a homeless guy who was hit by, or they think was a homeless guy, was hit by a car in their jurisdiction. And they were never able to identify him.
He was killed.
Yeah. So they were never able to identify this guy. So what they did was, like, small town people would do, is they took up a collection, they buried him in the graveyard at the church, and sort of forgot all about him. But the sheriff saw one of the TV shows on Bishop, looked at the picture of the dead guy from the autopsy, and it looked a lot like that picture on the right up there of Brad Bishop. I mean, a lot like him. Enough so that we actually had the body exhumed and took DNA, and it wasn't him. But that was the closest one, because in that one you were looking at a picture from 1981, comparing it to a picture from like 1975, 76, and they looked very, very, very close.